Hello my readers and bookworms over there on the other side of the screen. Today Truth Detective is over here and I want to review you this book, Al Capone by Deirdre Bair. Yeah, that's a female author and this is one of her last books I think that she has written. And this was released in the year 2017, I think, and it's a biography of the man you see over here, Al Capone. And it's about 300 pages and it's a very well written biography, you know. You can tell that this writer has skill, you know, in writing biographies. Some of the things he tells in this book are so kind of visual and cinematic. You can see into the history, you know, through this book, and I really dig that. So let's start with some facts about Al Capone. You know, he was a man, a gangster boss with an Italian background, and he was at the top of the mob or the Mafia world for about 6 years. And when he was at the top, he commanded over 170 men that were always, you know, on guard and protecting this mafia boss, Al Capone. And Al Capone was also a very sharp dresser. That was one of the best things I kind of came to know about this man. That for example, his fedora hat was custom made just for himself, and he ordered like suits and wool jackets, you know, classical jackets by the truckload, you know, like tailor-made stuff. So he was really kind of particular about his, you know, how would I say it, you know, outward image that he projected onto the population. And he had, you know, the bad side to him, and that was the criminal side. And the 1920s and the 30s, that was the time of the prohibition, and he was behind this business of the speakeasy clubs or the bars or what they would be called, you know. They were basically like brothel combined with a bar combined with a jazz club maybe, and you could go there and you could get your illegal booze and probably illegal drugs and your women and that kind of stuff, prostitution. And I don't know about like how it was actually organized, you know, but most of the money, you know, ended up in this Al Capone man's pocket and his joint and his outfits, you know. Everybody that was related to Al Capone, they also benefited and, you know, profited out of this illegal business huge big time. And that's the kind of a man this was, you know. This wasn't the he was a business genius, but he didn't invent a new type of a business like maybe for example, somebody like Steve Jobs did. So he didn't have that kind of genius, but there was some kind of magnetic thing that made people want to follow this guy, the illegal types. And he managed to, at the beginning of his kind of rise to the top of the crime world, he managed to also get the law-abiding citizens on his side. He did this through a lot of bribery, gift giving, and of course his illegal business of like trafficking illegal booze to the people. So people loved him for a while, but then his criminal outfit started to get really violent to protect this man and also to protect the business, you know. There's hundreds of murders that can be kind of traced to the Al Capone's gang, and he was in the end convicted to Alcatraz. That was the last prison he was in, but he went, I think, 3 times to prison, and the Alcatraz was his last visit to prison, and it was something I don't remember. Was it like 5 years or something like that? He didn't get sentenced for life, and he didn't get like a death sentence because he was the boss, you know. And this biographer talks in the book about Al Capone's cars, you know, black Cadillacs with bulletproof windows and this kind of stuff, awesome, cool stuff. And even that you could open a hatch in the car and put your Tommy gun barrel through it and shoot through the hatch, you know, the baddies that were after you, or the cops. And yeah. And this book also goes into the crime investigation. It doesn't talk about that there were any, you know, it doesn't talk that there was a lot of, you know, like detective work behind catching Al Capone. It was in the end machined by a man named J. Edgar Hoover, who was the boss or the leader of FBI. And he's a really interesting man also because he was so anti-communism, you know, at that point of the 20s and 30s, and there's a book about J. Edgar Hoover also that kind of goes into how he wasn't playing so clean himself, you know. So that time, you know, with the cops and the mob, you know, they were all kind of bad guys, but at the same time kind of, you know, saints in many ways, you know. They helped everybody and kept everybody alive, and at the same time killed thousands of people. So yeah, and Al Capone mainly did his business and operation in Chicago, not New York. And there were other mafia like cliques and you know gangs that wanted to murder this guy like through the years because he was their opponent, you know, in this business. But you have to understand the difference between the 20s, 30s crime wave, where the mafia versus the people like, for example, John Dillinger and Machine Gun Kelly and Bonnie and Clyde, you know, these were robbers. But of course, Al Capone's gang might have done some robbery, but that's not really talked about over here. And the mafia wasn't really about robbery in the 20s and 30s. They didn't do robbery probably themselves. They might have sold stolen goods, you know, that's what they did, but the mafia wasn't really about robbery. It was illegal business and strong arming and loan sharking. And of course, there had to be a loan sharking type of endeavor going on over here also with Al Capone. And probably he gave huge gambling loans to the people, and it was the kind of the rise also in terms of the economy. And when the kind of the stock market kind of crashed, you know, and that there was the huge depression that led to the crime wave and the birth of FBI in the United States, then it's kind of tied into that, his rise and his demise, you know. People no longer had the extra money and the extra cash to blow on like booze and women and that kind of stuff and gambling. So the Al Capone's outfit also owned these slot machines and also vending machines, for example, related to the cigarette selling. So the cigarette industry also has ties to the mafia. Like that's a given thing. You could probably find more connections to the mob in the cigarette and the tobacco industry, probably at least just this time, if you just went and you digged for them. I'm sure they're there. And then she talks about, I kind of feel that it was really great that the biographer of this book was a woman, because she talks more about the, you know, for example, the clothes, and she paints a picture of the man. And I really dig, you know, what I hear from the guy's style, you know. He was a pretty style criminal. And most of the high profile mafiosos, they were pretty style in their ways, you know. They were good, fine clothes, and they looked good, you know, kind of. Of course, Al Capone was kind of a fat man and fat man, and that might be also related to the fact that he had to hide a lot from the cops and also from the other criminal gang members. So he had always bodyguards, and he had always armed bodyguards, and sometimes when he went to, for example, the opera and this kind of stuff, there were almost like 50, his men, with him there to like make sure that nobody, gets to assassinate this guy, because 20s and 30s were a huge time of like mafia-related assassination. They could happen the weirdest ways. I don't know. I don't remember if it was Alberto Anastasia that got actually assassinated in a barber shop. The barber was just, starting to cut his hair, and the barber had, I believe, done some kind of deal with the other criminal gang member that he's going to put this mafia boss, in the chair, and then they went in and shot the guy, there. And I remember this picture out of one book with the guy, like shot the freaking like smithereens, with bullets, lying on the floor of the barber shop. I was going, man, it's wild times, wild times. Like, holy shit, don't go to barber. Yeah, always wear a fedora hat. Do it your fucking self. One way to get assassinated. Then there was huge risks in that kind of a business. So not everybody loved this guy, and the public opinion kind of changed, and then it's all drama, the kind of when he went to court, that was the beginning of the drama. The first I would say the first 2 years, he operated pretty undercover, but then J. Edgar Hoover wanted to convict this man of tax evasion and also of the breaking the laws of the prohibition, so related to illegal trafficking of booze. And they say in this that the Al Capone's gang didn't traffic drugs, but I don't know. But what I gained from the other book about the New York Mafia was that pretty much all of the families were into drug dealing. And in the Godfather movie, for example, the Godfather says that that the mafia shouldn't be in the business of drug dealing, and also the real mafia boss, who was his name, like the Bonanno, he said that men of honor don't deal in drugs, but they dealt in drugs, and I'm pretty sure that in those times they probably were drug dealers also. It was the time when cocaine and heroin were actually still legal, I think to the year 1918, something like that. They were legal and you could get them from a pharmacy. But then when heroin became illegal, of course, it was a huge business in New York City. And I don't know how Chicago and New York kind of differentiated from each other, but yeah. So that kind of a book. And then he went to the prison, and one of the prison rounds was kind of easy, and the last one was kind of backbiting hard for the man. And in the end, he died of syphilis, I think. And I like how old was he when he died? I can't remember, but yeah, he didn't live so long. And yeah, that was the life of Al Capone. Really highly recommend this book if you are into kind of the 20s, 30s style. If you like prohibition, read this, because this is kind of the guy that kind of capitalized on that. I'm for prohibition even in the current times. I think it would work much better, and I live in Finland. You know, you would see how much of a boozing country this is. You know, I'm for prohibition all the way. You know, because probably people like this would like surface, and I think that yeah, it would be kind of bad, but also it would be kind of fucking style. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, thanks for watching Al Capone and Deirdre. She has also written biographies of Samuel Beckett, which is a writer, French writer, I believe, and then he has written also a biography about Carl Gustav Jung. So I'm thinking that maybe I should read that. It's over 900 pages, and I don't really like that, you know, heavy of books, you know. I think 300 pages is my kind of go-to type of format. But the next time I'm going to review you books about the history of crime in the United States with my matching outfit. I'm going to be telling you about a book called Mob and the City, and it's about New York, and it's about all the criminal families in New York at that time. And then I have a book called Public Enemies, and this book, Public Enemies, is about the robbers, you know. And as I said, you know, most of the time the robbers weren't part of the mafia at all. They might have some connections, but most of the time they were, you know, smaller type of gangs and not mafia families that, you know, employed hundreds of people like Al Capone's gang did. And as I said, these people might have done robberies also, but it's not usually talked about so much, and I believe that it wasn't their main source of income. Probably the times were kind of hard either way, so hey, they had to find different means of getting that illegal money, and that was drugs, booze, horse, and gambling, and also debts, and the illegal collection of debts, you know. So it was a dangerous time to be poor. It was a dangerous time to be sick. It was a dangerous time to be on the streets. It was a dangerous time to be alive. But there's something in it, you know. There's just something in that time that was so much more, you know, kind of, how would I say it, you know, humane. I don't know why, but I just feel that this current modern time is so inhumane in many ways. People are becoming like robots. And this man was not a robot. Yeah. Everybody has good in them, even this man. And I didn't talk to you about that, but he was a huge philanthropist actually, with his the money that he made illegally, you know. He was a huge philanthropist. He gave huge amounts of money away when he felt that he could like benefit his own reputation and got people to his side by that. So he used money as a ways to get people on his side, and he was pretty a clever dude, but no. When they did like an IQ analysis on the guy, they said that his IQ was something like 95, and that's kind of below normal, you know. I remember that when I did IQ test, I scored something like 105 or 108, something like that. So yeah, I'm not, you know, in those terms, like in any way amazing, but yeah. So thanks for watching. That was Al Capone, a man of the prohibition and the man of the fedora hat. And by the way, his fedora hat was grey, the same as mine. Yeah. Man, we have to bring back these freaking hats, you know. They have a freaking legacy in them. I wouldn't have even probably bought this book if I hadn't bought this fucking hat. And man, I learned a lot through this. I also made a Finnish video about that was featuring me as the walking history teacher talking about this man, but I'm not gonna do that in English. No need to repeat myself. Thanks for watching.